So my name is Alicia Berry. I am the Associate Director of Admissions and the Director of Financial Aid here at Proctor Academy. I'm also, on that note, though, a dorm parent, an advisor, a soccer coach, and a Proctor alumni myself, class of 2015. So I've seen Proctor through many lenses here. We've over 30 alumni on our campus, so you drink the Kool-Aid and you come back. But this evening, as I noted, we're going to be speaking to Proctor's off-campus programs. And so we have some wonderful guests that are going to join us and introduce themselves shortly. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you just a little overview into what our programming looks like here on campus. So some of you, if this isn't your first panel, may have seen this slide before. When we talk about the Proctor experience, there's so many different facets that go into the culminating experience of Proctor, whether that's our arts and skills courses, our athletics and performing arts and afternoon programming, our residential and community life, our academics, both looking at the mainstream academics that we offer here, but then also our different levels of support programs. And then what brought everyone here this evening is really looking at our experiential learning programs off campus. We have a lot of on-campus experiential learning, which was probably noted in our academics panel, but really looking today at how Proctor moves students off campus to continue with still having that Proctor experience. So again, like looking at Proctor's model, this is just another slide that's reiterating what we just saw previously. But that full program, we talk about a lot of what are the outcomes of schools. Textual learning is certainly a part of it, but really looking at those human literacy skills. How are we teaching students to take that textual learning and apply that knowledge? What does that look like in terms of collaboration, in terms of problem solving, critical thinking, those skills that are highly transferable, but need to be used in tandem with textual knowledge to really get the full breadth of education and the goals that we're trying to have for our learners. And so once again, this slide may look familiar, but this is really that profile of a Proctor graduate. This is on our website for anyone that wants to revisit it. But again, you're going to see different words here: collaborative, ethical, contribute, creative, resilient, knowledgeable, problem solvers, responsible. These are really big aspects of the Proctor experience that we want these facets combined with that textual learning to really take our students, our learners, I say our students, we're all in this space together as adults, students, staff, faculty, we're all learning together, but really taking that educational journey to the next level outside of the classroom, outside of textual learning. And so one of the large examples that Proctor has, well, we have it in micro examples here on campus in lots of different ways. Our study abroad programs, or really our off-campus programs, they're not all technically abroad, are going to be large programs that tend to bring Proctor on the radar for many people, such as yourselves. So we have 5 full trimester off-campus programs. We have Proctor in Segovia, Spain, our ocean classroom, mountain classroom, European art classroom, and Proctor in Monteverde, which is our Costa Rica classroom. Each year, roughly a third of Proctor's student body studies on one of these programs. Again, they're trimester long, so approximately 8 weeks. And about 3/4 of our students, about 75%, choose to do at least one of these programs during their time at Proctor, so over those 4 years. And for every student, that's going to look a little differently at that timeline, which again, you're going to hear our student voices on that front. So as I mentioned, one of our programs is Spain. I'm going to give you really just the briefest overview of these programs because once again, I think the important aspect of this evening is really hearing from more voices than myself, so really hearing from the students. But as I mentioned, these programs are they are just a continuity of the educational journey for students. So one aspect that we always like to really talk about is these programs are not a vacation. They're not just a quote unquote trip. Students are out there with Proctor hired faculty members. It's Proctor students and it's Proctor cultivated curriculum. So they are taking a full course load on all of these programs as they're out there. And that course load is going to be highly applicable and experiential to whatever the program is. And so for a program like Spain, there's going to be a lot of Spanish history and literature, a lot of actually speaking Spanish, and then a homestay program as well. And so really learning what does that look like living with a family in a different country, in a different culture, with a different language, and how you navigate that. And so here's some photos from our Spain program. On an opposite end of the spectrum, we have our ocean classroom. Once again, we are partnered with a company, but really looking intentionally at the hiring. And so with the Proctor classes on there, the program we work with is SEA out of Woods Hole, that used to work more primarily with colleges and has shifted gears to work here with us at Proctor as we're looking to really elevate um, the academics and really make it application based for our students. So on that program, while there's a seamanship skills course, maritime literature, maritime history, there's also a really large focus on sciences, which again, our students will speak more about, but the students are actually taking two different science courses and then a math course on that program. Again, just some photos from those. Mountain Classroom. This one's actually Proctor's oldest program, as you can see here, started in 1972. That program is going to focus more traditionally on the Western American issues, ecology, literature and writing, nature and culture, expedition skills, and group dynamics are going to be a big one on that one, which we're going to hear from Katie about more so coming up. But that one's going to have a different shift, really focusing as they're traveling across the country. And then we have European Art Classroom. This one is a little bit newer of a program for us. I say newer, it started in 2009 and it's offered multiple terms, as with most of ours. This one is going to have definitely a different focus, focusing a little bit more on the art, hence the name, and looking still at European history, French language, different literature. And then once again, the art space is going to be really big on that front as they're living in Aix-en-Provence, so in the south of France. And then lastly, we have Proctor Monteverde. So this one is our Costa Rica program. This is our only program offered to 10th graders. I forgot to mention the other programs that we just mentioned, those four are offered for 11th or 12th graders. As you can see with the course load, it's very elective based. Whereas this is a 10th grade program, it's great to have that similar age group out there together, but they're also going to be doing a handful of graduation requirement courses that we have for our 10th graders here on campus. So you'll see a US history tutorial, their English class, their mathematics, their biology is going to be aligned more with where they're at. And then they're going to be taking Spanish as well. This program is also a homestay program, and Kiara is definitely going to give us a little bit more overview into what that day in a life looks like as well as we move forward. But here are some photos here. But now I'm going to pass the mic over. I'm going to have our students introduce themselves. And fear not, they're going to give a much more in-depth description of their programs after we get through our full introductions. And then we will definitely open up after that for any questions or comments that you guys all have. So this is the time, definitely think about them and feel free to shoot them in the chat. It's great to shoot them to the entire group as there might be other viewers that have that same question as you. But Noah, I'll let you take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Noah Young. I am a three-year senior from Bridgewater, Connecticut, and I went on Ocean Classroom last fall. I chose Ocean Classroom because I've always had a very deep interest in environmental science, and ever since I first came to Proctor, I knew that Ocean Classroom had a lot of that to offer, so I knew that that was the one for me.
Thanks, Noah. And then Katie, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose Mountain.
Hi, I'm Katie Balch. I'm a four-year senior at Proctor. I'm from Sunapee, New Hampshire, and I've been hiking my whole life and living in the backcountry as much as I can. And I saw mountain as an opportunity to do that while also learning more about the science side of the backcountry. And it was just a perfect combination of both living out there and learning about it.
Thanks, Katie. And now, Kiara, I'll have you talk a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kiara. I'm a three-year junior. I went to Costa Rica my sophomore year. And why I chose Costa Rica, personally, I'm a big foodie, so I love food. And I just love the food there. It was amazing. Also, I love the Costa Rican culture, and I was really, really interested. So. Yeah.
Thanks, Kiara. Conrad, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Conrad Colon. I'm a four-year senior. I'm from Bozeman, Montana. Um, I was on European Art Classroom last fall, a year ago. I chose Euro. I mean, frankly, who wouldn't want to go spend the fall in the south of France? The history, the food, architecture, all of it. Um, but especially because I really wanted to grow and push myself as an artist.
Thanks, Conrad. And Jackie, you're our last one.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie. I'm a current senior. This is my second year at Proctor, and I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. The way I got onto the Segovia program is a little different than everybody else. There was actually a last minute opening, and the faculty at Proctor really pushed me to take that spot. And I'm really glad that I did that because I was able to improve my Spanish, which was something that I was really excited about.
Perfect. Thanks, Jackie. And I'm actually going to keep you on the mic for a moment, just as we move backwards. And so for you guys to have the opportunity to speak a little bit more in depth and to really, now that you've experienced that, all of these students went on these programs just last year, and now they've experienced Spain, like really giving that description. What did your term look like? What are some of the things you did? And maybe a little bit of the day in the life, which I know was really a big question to ask of each of you. So kind of summing that up as we move forward then into the question stage. So I'm going to bring it back towards that Spain slide so you can spend a little bit of time thinking about anything that I probably left. I left a lot off because I tried to keep it very minute, but giving that overview that you would use.
Yeah, so I'll start by talking about a day in the life in Segovia. So you wake up in the morning and go right to school. School starts at about 9 o'clock, I want to say. And breakfast really isn't a big thing there, which is something you kind of got to get used to. But you have school until 2 o'clock where you'll take 1 hour of history, 1 hour of English, and then 3 hours of Spanish. And what's interesting about that Spanish block is you're not in the classroom for most of that block. Often our Spanish teachers would take us out into the market and we'd have to order our food in Spanish. So just kind of having that experience within the Spanish culture. And then you return home at 2 o'clock to get a meal, which is the big meal of the day, our lunch meal. And after that is siesta. And siesta was one of my favorite parts of the day because here we don't have nap time midday. So I really enjoyed that. And then after that is activities. So in Segovia, they offered a bunch of different activities. I took dance classes. I'm not a dancer, but I decided to try it out in Spain. And then I also did things like go to the gym. Everybody gets a gym membership. And I also took singing lessons over there, which was very exciting. So that's what the typical school day looks like. And then often on weekends, you'll travel to different areas of Spain. So my group in particular, we took a trip to Barcelona where we dove into like the arts. So we got to see the Pablo Picasso Museum, which was very interesting. And then we also went to the south of Spain to Sevilla, which was kind of arts, a little more architecture focused. But what's interesting about the weekend trips is you really get a feel for the different areas of Spain and the different cultural aspects within those areas.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. And so Noah, I think you're up next. If you want to give a little bit more of that full trimester overview of Ocean, and then also what one day in the life can look like, which I get giving a day in the life can be a bit of an overgeneralization. Every day is a little different, but
Yeah. So Proctor just started a new partnership with SEA, which stands for Sea Education Association. Last year, my year was the first year that they had this partnership. They are based out of Woods Hole on the Cape. And for the first half of the trimester, all 20 students of us, we stayed in the house on their campus. And then the second half was on the boat. So I'll kind of give you a day in the life of on land and then on the boat. So for normal day in the life on land, we would wake up and we would have breakfast, and then we would have two main class blocks: a 3 hour session in the morning, and then a 3 hour session after lunch in the afternoon. And during these, usually one was our maritime studies block, and then there was our nautical science block, and then there was, sorry, just those two. And basically, you wouldn't be in the classroom for those 3 hours straight. It would be broken up with 15-minute breaks in between, kind of just give you a chance to go out and stretch your legs. And then after you were done with class, you would come back to the house and you would have dinner. And there would be a different activity that we would do every night, whether that was just hanging out outside by the campfire or playing Jeopardy inside. About whatever we wanted really. And then on the weekends, we would have field trips. Like one time or one day, you can see in the photo where they're jumping off of the sand dunes. We drove up to Provincetown, which is the very tip of Cape Cod. And on the way there, we stopped at these massive sand dunes where we were able to swim, and we were kind of just able to run around and do all sorts of fun stuff. And then on the boat, we were broken up into 3 different watch groups where you would be on watch for a 6 hour period. And there were 4 different time slots during the day. It would be from 1 a.m. to 1 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. So you would essentially be on watch for 6 hours, and then you would have 12 hours off. So the kind of concept of a 24-hour day wasn't really part of our daily life on Ocean, but you definitely get used to it. But a normal day in the life, you would be on watch during any one of those time periods. We would rotate every day. And then every day at 2 p.m., we would have a 1 hour class time on the boat. And during this class time, you would usually learn how to put up a new sail if we haven't put that up yet. They would give us time to work on our research projects. They sometimes in the picture below, they would let us climb up to the top of the mast. And yeah, that was kind of a normal day in the life for us.
Thanks, Noah. I saw Conrad's eyes grow like saucers when you were going over those time frames. I think the 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. shift was a little scary. Uh, but I'm sure you get used to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Next, Kate, if you want to talk a little bit about Mountain Classroom, and maybe I know you went in the spring term, and so you could also maybe talk about what's the difference between winter and spring term.
Yeah, so I'll start with a day in the life, which is mountain is probably the hardest to nail down for a day in the life because you're just in a new spot every time you wake up, which is awesome. But typically, there's 3 stages of mountain. There's introduction phase, main phase, and final phase. And each phase, the instructors kind of let you take the ropes a little bit more. So a typical day in main phase would kind of be you wake up. You either set up kitchen if you hadn't the night before. You set up kitchen, you cook breakfast, figure out what you're doing for the day. It could be a push day where you're just traveling or driving. It could be a day where you're exploring the area that you're in, or you're rock climbing, or you're backpacking, or you're on the river. So it really depends on what the kind of itinerary is. And then mountain, the most important piece of mountain is advocating for yourself and kind of taking care of yourself. It's very student led, and the students are kind of putting in all the muscle work. And so we cook the meals, we kind of set up the kitchen, put up the tents, clean up the bus, do all that kind of stuff, do the dishes. And then, so yeah, I went on Spring Mountain, and the difference between spring and winter, obviously, this is seasons, but we usually both start around Nevada is where we started. Winter started in around Oklahoma. And then we flew down and drove the bus back to Proctor up to New Hampshire. Winter Mountain flew out and flew back. So that's usually the main difference, other than winter is usually a lot snowier, but we still got some snow in the spring. And yeah, you pretty much just live off the land, and you take classes, and they're kind of surrounded by the area that you're in. So you take social studies and English class, and the literature that you usually focus on is about the culture you're in. So we stayed on a Navajo reservation and a Hopi reservation, and we learned a lot about their cultures. And then the science classes, there's science and expedition skills, and these are kind of your classes learning about the environment out there. And expedition skills is like survival skills, learning how to set up a tarp, learning how to start a fire with wet wood. And yeah, and then there's also community living, and you learn how to live with a small group in a secluded area for a long time, which is another really important, valuable aspect of mountain. Yeah.
A huge aspect. I feel like those living skills. And those are going to translate so many of these skills for all these programs are going to translate to so many different aspects of life. Conrad, if you want to take it away and talk a little bit about European art classroom now, that would be phenomenal.
Sure. So overall, Euro is structured so that you live, for the most part, in Aix-en-Provence. I should say by the end of the term, we really got to know that city super well. It was so cool. And I know that if I ever get to go back there, I will have a total roadmap of what that place is like. And it's cool to have that connection. So that's our central hub. And then you will take 3, 5, 6 day trips over the course of your term to go anywhere in Europe. And that really depends on the year. I believe winter group typically goes to Paris for one of those. But if you're not in winter, then it could be anywhere. Personally, we went to Strasbourg in the Alsace-Lorraine. We went to Bologna in Italy, and we went to Valencia in Spain. So we got to spend about a week in each of those spots before coming back to our home base in Aix-en-Provence. For the academics, the central part of your education on European art classroom is art history and art instruction. I had always been an artist. I had never been super fascinated with art history, and boy, did I realize that there is so much more there than I ever thought. So continually throughout the term, you really, really dive deep into art history. Our literature class focuses mostly on historical fiction, kind of putting you in the eras and sometimes imagined lives of the artists that you're studying. So all of your academics really shifts to support your study of art, which is the main thing. And we spend so much time in the studio. I was really surprised when I got there. You expect, oh my God, you're going to France, this is going to be great. But no, they demand a lot of you, and they expect you to create a pretty broad body of work while you're there, which was a cool challenge for me. As far as day in the life is concerned, it varied. We would do different things each day, but overall we would get up and then it would either be a sort of a home day where we would have our art history class taught by Dave. He would take us through wherever we were along the timeline of art history, specifically Western history. And then we would have studio time in the afternoon to work on whatever personal projects we were doing. And then in the evenings, we would have time to work on our art book, so we called it. The term-long project that you have is you hand bind a book, 2 books actually. One, which is your own book that walks through the history of Western art, and the other is a leather-bound sketchbook that you're supposed to carry with you through your travels and document everything you see. Other side of the day in the life coin would be an in-town day. We live with the 2 teachers. It's a small group, all sharing one house. You can see there with the pool in the front. It's pretty sweet. We live in Vauvenargues, which is about a 20-minute bus ride from the heart of Aix-en-Provence. So easy commute, get up in the morning. We have our literature class in a cafe in the heart of Aix, which is just so cool. So we get to know the cafe really well, and all the staff greet us, and it's super fun. We would have class, and then we would get the rest of the day to explore the city, do what we wanted, speak French, use our French, see the sights, and then take the bus ride back. We cook our own food, and then in the evenings we would have that dedicated study time to work on our art history books. So that's Euro.
Thanks, Conrad. I had the opportunity to go visit this group a few years back, and it was hard to get me back home. It was so phenomenal. Lots of really good food and some really amazing things. I went on one of the promenades with Dave as one of their field trips where they go out with Dave to different areas. And Kiara, as our youth of the group, just a 10th grader last year, so a year behind everyone else. If you could give us a little bit more of an overview of Proctor and Monteverde, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, of course. So as far as like everyone else says, Spain is kind of similar to Costa Rica as far as like day in the life. I mean, you do start off at 9 a.m., which is pretty cool. And you basically have English history combined, and then you have math and you have English for, I mean, Spanish for like maybe 3 hours or so, the same thing. And same block, same hours and everything. And you have your classes in this like they rent out this space for you in the elementary school in Costa Rica. And so you have all your classes together with all your classmates, and your teachers come in and they basically teach you for a couple hours. Then after that, you are assigned, maybe not assigned, like you have like an activity in the afternoon for each day. So on Mondays, usually you have, I think, like you have dance or you have cooking classes, or you have essentially and like you work on a farm with like these horses, and you know how to treat horses and all that stuff. And then you have, as I said, dance class, or you have like just a study hall, so you can do all your work and get caught up with all your work and what you need to do. Or you could just have that time to go with your host family. We have like a free time in the weekends where you essentially just stay with the host family if you like to, hang out with your friends. As Conrad said, you basically already know like your central hub. So me being there, you already know like where all the stores are, where are the malls, where is like the best bakery, the best store, where to hang out, all that stuff. So it's basically like literally like your home. And so, and the weekends we have a trip to go, and essentially we go on trips to see maybe the bridges or the mountains as I am sitting there. And essentially you see like the science of Costa Rica. Oh, I also forgot you have science as well. So science class is basically hands-on, where you're not sitting in a class taking notes or still listen to a teacher just talk for a couple minutes. You basically have you go and you just explore the woods and explore all the science and all the critters and all the leaves and all this stuff. And I mean, yeah, basically it.
Thanks, Kiara. And also, I realized I accidentally forgot to fill a spot, so I have the European art classroom villa on here too. A little different than the Costa Rica spaces, but thank you all. I think that was a great overview. And so what I'm going to move us into now is really just to answer some of those questions, which I see I had a few submitted to me. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That way you can really see our students. But let's see here. This first question submitted to me was asking a little bit about how you get on a program and who helps you really talk through. There's so many awesome program options. How do you really figure out which one to go on, and who helps you with that? So maybe starting first with Katie, Conrad, Noah, some of our older students. Jackie, your story's a little different how you got there, which I think is also great to speak to. But for our upperclassmen, who helped you really navigate that process, and what is that process to get onto a program? If somebody wants to grab the mic.
So, when I kind of came into Proctor knowing that I really wanted to do mountain. I had actually done one of these WebExes when I was coming to my freshman year, but I went through all of the programs with my advisor, and she really helped me kind of narrow down which one seemed like the best fit for me. And for me, that was mountain. It was between ocean and mountain, and I think that I made the right choice, even though ocean seems awesome, but mountain's the best. And then you send out an application. So for each off-campus program, I can't speak to all of them, but it's some form of application. So for Mountain, it was an essay and kind of just like why you think you'd be a good fit and why you want to go on Mountain. And then they kind of evaluate your essay and kind of your how you fit in with the community to see if it would be the best fit for you. And then you get either accepted onto the program or maybe referred to one that might seem like a better fit. And then you get to connect with the leaders. So for Mountain, there's two leaders. I don't really know how it works for the off campus, but you get to meet with them, talk to them, ask them any questions, concerns, and then you'll know a year before which off campus program you're supposed to go on. So.
Perfect. I think that was a great overview. And Jackie, you came in, you were a new student last year. Obviously that's not the normal case to get on a program your first year, though it does happen every once in a while. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of more of that process and what those conversations like for you? Like who were you talking to through that process? That's the big decision to all of a sudden kind of up and move to Spain and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a new student last year. I came in as a junior, and I was not planning on going off campus at all because it didn't fit my schedule. And since you apply for an off campus the year prior, I wasn't able to apply for my junior year. So in spring, they made an announcement saying that they were looking for one person, and I submitted the application without asking my parents, without talking to my advisors, because I was like, this is an opportunity that's going to be great, and I just need to take it since I have the chance. And once I told my advisor, she was ecstatic because she had been pushing me to do something out of my comfort zone and to do something that she knew would be good for me, such as going off on an off campus program. And then when I told my mom, she was also excited because she felt that if I had gone to Proctor and not done an off-campus program, then I really would be missing like a life-changing experience. So I'm very grateful that there was that extra spot. I will say it's kind of a different way to get on an off-campus program. I got on by chance, but I'm very lucky to have gotten that spot.
I know your advisor well, and that does not surprise me. Um, in the same to be said, I think for most advisors, we want to be really encouraging. I think we find ourselves in a community. The students and I were talking about this earlier, where this is such a normalized thing. And so for families coming in, this seems like such a huge thing. Right now, you're just trying to figure out where you might want to go to high school. And so this can seem like another really big jump. But I think it's pretty amazing to get into this community and kind of get that mindset of why not take advantage of these different opportunities. Um, Anyhow, the next question that I have submitted here, which also will go towards you, Jackie, but you and Kiara, is to tell us a little bit more about what that was like to live with a homestay family. And so maybe Kiara, I'll let you start, and then Jackie, if you want to talk about it from your perspective in Spain.
Yeah, of course. So for me, at first, I was super nervous. Even though I already spoke Spanish and I have a good understanding of it, I was really, really nervous because at first I'm like, why am I staying renting people's houses? Like, what am I doing here? Like, this isn't right for me. Like, what am I doing? But then eventually, as you have your time in your host day, they really, really do love you. They really like they're already used to this. So like I remember one time they kept telling me like, hey, like we've done this like for 13 years, so like don't be nervous. Tell us what you don't like and do like. I mean, that was one of the things that I really, really was struggling with, and then what I don't like and do like because at first I just felt really, really bad. But then I started to realize that wow, these are really people that I really care about me and really want me to stay here and really want me to continue having a nice like time with them. So me being with them was a really nice time. I mean, at first I was again super nervous. I was really, really shy, and my homestay family had two twins, so I was really, really nervous to talk to them. Even they were even my age, close to my age, so it was really, really scary. But one time I was sitting at the dinner table and I was just watching the news that they have pop up. And one thing about them is they really like to talk and really like to engage in conversation. So once they talked about the news, talked about things in the United States or any Massachusetts, they really brought me to have conversation and engage with them and have a good time with them. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Kiara. And Jackie, do you want to talk about your experience in Spain and what that was like with your host family? Everyone has different host families, so it's going to be a different experience for each student in that sense.
So my experience was very similar to Kiara's, but I didn't come in knowing as much Spanish as she did. And I'd always been taking pretty solid level Spanish classes, but I'd never actually had to apply them in a setting like that. So when I met my host parents, they were like, "How much Spanish do you speak?" And I was like, not a lot. So we kind of just learned from there. And the first thing they told me when I met them was speak to us as much as possible, and that's where you'll grow the most. So throughout my experience, I started off just talking to them about how my day was, or if I was hungry, if I was ready to go to bed. And by the end of my trip, we started having conversations like about their family life. And we even talked about things like politics, what's going on in the world. So just growing that relationship was really kind of interesting. And I will say at the beginning, it's difficult to be in somebody else's space where you might not feel as comfortable. I felt strange being in somebody else's house, somebody else's room, somewhere I wasn't exactly used to. But over time, it really becomes your home and your family as well. And like Kiara said, they'll learn about what you do like, what you don't like, and how to live together and be a true family.
Thanks, Jackie. This next question here, I think, is a great tie-in, and for you guys can each speak to it as you all have different schedules. But how does going on one of these off-campus programs work with coming back on campus? If there's certain classes you want to take junior and senior year, especially, there's a lot of different AP courses or upper levels and honors in really awesome electives. How do you navigate academics when you're going off campus, but some of our courses are year-long courses? So Conrad, you're leaning forward. You're ready.
Yeah, I can try this one. Like Alicia said earlier, at any given time, we have a third of our campus off. So it really is not all that much of a disruption. It's kind of part of what we do here. For me, I was able to continue my battery of humanities courses. I'm a humanities kid. I didn't take math on Euro, and the only real consequence of that was that I am in what we call an off-sequence class now. So I missed the first term of my junior year math. I was able to hop into the first term, but taught in the second term and continue on that progression. So now in the fall term of my senior year, I'm taking the spring final term of junior year math. And if that's a hassle for you, you can just do it over the summer. Proctor is super great about connecting you with tutors, giving you all the resources you need to get those credits and reintegrate seamlessly. So.
Thanks, Conrad. Yeah, I would say math is probably that one that is going to be a really spiraling subject on that sense of making sure that we want our students to have that full course. And so that's a space certainly so that some students front load it and they'll take the fall term over the summer before they go away in the fall, and then they come back in and drop right into winter term and then spring term. And then some of our students will do what Conrad just said, where they'll do the off sequence. So they'll take the fall term actually in the winter term actually in the spring, and then choose to do the spring term either over the summer or as Conrad did, since he's definitely pushing more in the humanities, he definitely was able to choose his academic journey to take his spring term in the fall. So it's going to be a little bit different for every student. Katie, you're definitely like a heavy STEM kid on that front. How did that schedule work for you?
Yeah, so I take majority math and science classes, and so I left in the spring, which was able to. Luckily, you only have to take 2 terms of honors pre-calc to go to AP Calc, so I was able to do that and just continue where I left off this fall without any summer work, which was nice. And then for science classes, I took 2 terms of physics, and now I'm in AP Bio and AP Environmental Science. And I didn't have to do any makeup work for that just because I still got the physics credit for only taking 2 terms of it. And on Mountain, there is a science class, so that kind of counts it as my whole year of science. And then for just making up credit, it kind of depends on the term you take off. So I know taking off in the winter is a little more difficult when you come back because it's kind of like the middle of the year, and spring term is typically the easiest for that because it's kind of the end of the year. So it's just a little bit easier to like you get the first 2 terms done, so you have a really good basis of it, and then you can kind of pick it back up in the summer if you need to, or you can just move on to the next class in the fall. So yeah, math definitely builds upon itself, but sciences are a little bit easier to pick back up the next year.
Awesome. And here's another great question. And I had a few last minute panelist shifts. So I think I actually lost my couple kids that were in our learning skills program. Are any of you guys in learning lab or learning skills? No, I lost them all. We had, busy life at Proctor, a couple of kids that last minute were switching out. But that said, so for students, I can speak a little bit to this, that um, utilize our academic support program while being at Proctor on campus. We don't have learning skills off campus. I like, ripping off that Band-Aid. But I think the important aspect to that is, again, most of these offer junior, senior year and the highly experiential and application based and the pace of which classes are moving. students really have that academic toolbox by the time they're heading off, that they're ready to jump into this work. And also how it's set up and organizes in a way that's very approachable. And kind of, the third aspect to that is that students, oh, Jackie, you ready? Did you have something to add?
I also do want to make note that often on off-campus programs, students will come together to learn together. So if you have like projects or if you have essays, a lot of the time off campus, since you're in such small groups, you're collaborating with each other. So I know in Spain, we would have study halls where we would all come together and peer edit. Like that's not something that was led by our teachers or our instructors. That's something that we all took initiative to do. So on off-campus programs, since your groups are so small, often you'll be working together on things like that as well. So
Yeah.
offering that kind of peer support.
Yeah, and a variety of kids at different places go on off-campus programs. So I know a lot of kids on my mountain were in learning skills, and I know for like mountain and probably for like Euro, it's a lot. It's a smaller group, obviously, so you're very connected with your teachers, and a lot of teachers teach multiple classes, so they get to know you, they get to know your learning style, and even though there's not like direct learning skills, there's tons of support options, even if you're in the middle of the woods. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. And that's what kind of going on to that is Proctor hired faculty members, Proctor created curriculum. That's something that we do have a lot of intentionality for. And then for our Costa Rica program, where it's 10th graders taking that continuity of curriculum, that's going to be a little bit different as there's some on-campus classes that we're offering in Costa Rica. We have had the wonderful opportunity, our on site program coordinator that has partnered with us. She actually comes to campus and meets with and is sitting in on classes, seeing our Proctor teachers teach. She's going up to learning skills. She's learning from the learning specialists. Our head of our learning skills program actually also flew out to Costa Rica at one point and really got to work with teachers out there because, again, we want to make sure that our students are supported wherever they go. And once again, learning skills, amazing tool, amazing program, but it's also so much layered into just how Proctor academics are. Nobody learns best in that lecture-based teaching style. And so again, getting the kids very hands-on. And I think the schedule of how things work on our off-campus programs structures in that organization and time management in a really phenomenal way for our students. So hopefully that answers that question there. And I think that is a really phenomenal question to ask. That's a common one we get. A conversation we have a lot in admissions actually is around our world language credits. And we have students that come in with a world language waiver. And while we have students take our world languages, a lot of our students actually might take Spanish 1 on campus freshman year or sophomore year, depending on their timing, and then actually go to Spain. And in that one term of Spain, you get a full year's worth of world language credit. So that's actually a space too where originally at the inception of that program was for a lot of our students that were in learning skills and really navigating world languages. So really cool to now see it built upon that in a lot of different directions too. Awesome. So I'm kind of scrolling through here, looking at some of these questions. This is a fun one here. If you could choose any other program that you haven't done yet, what program would you choose? And so I think that'd be a fun one. And Katie and Kiara, this might also be a moment from my admissions mind to maybe give a plug into the summer programs that you guys are debating going on too, which we haven't had the opportunity to talk about our summer programs yet.
Yeah, so if I didn't go on mountain, I would definitely go on ocean. Because I think it just looks like an amazing opportunity. And then this coming summer, there is a China trip. It's 12 days and it's right after graduation. And I'm really hoping that I can go because I've always wanted to go to Asia and I think it'd be an amazing opportunity. And then there's also the Rosebud trip, which I did not go on, but someone else can speak more to that. Yeah.
Yeah, off-campus program, if I didn't go on Costa Rica, I'd probably go on Spain. I had the same situation with Jackie where the board of director that does Costa Rica, Lindsay Brown, she talked to my advisor. She was like, "Hey, like I have this spot for Kiara that I really want to I really want her to go. Like tell her." And my advisor Megan was just so happy to tell me. And so I got a text. She told me, and I was just stunned by the idea that Lindsay had. And so it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the winter term had ended. So I was just like, whoa, like this is like really exciting. And I told my mom. She said, yeah. So I definitely go on Spain. And I am applying to Rosebud, and I'm super excited to go on Rosebud. I mean, I really love the native culture, and I really love to know more about it. I have a friend, Olivia. She's off campus now, but I really love to know, like learn more about her culture and all that. So yeah.
Thanks, Kara. And so for people that don't know, we mentioned now twice the Rosebud program. And so that program is for, it's during the summer, about a week and a half, 2 weeks, where students travel out to the Rosebud Reservation, which is in South Dakota, and is Proctor has a phenomenal partnership with the Lakota Nation out there. And so for students to get out and have a really phenomenal summer learning opportunity, and to be able to really also learn a lot more about the Lakota culture, and the Lakota people on that front. So thank you on that end. Here's another question that just came in, which is preference given to upperclassmen when be accepted into an off-campus program? And so I might just take this one real quick if that's okay too, guys. Conscientious, my voice is being broadcasted a lot on this, so we'll move back to you. But yes, preference is given to seniors, but or to upperclassmen. But as we've mentioned, there's about a third of our school going off campus at any given time. And as you probably also saw, other than Ocean Classroom, that one is only offered in the fall term. The rest of our programs are offered multiple terms. So students, when they applied the year before, are going to put their preference, they're going to rank if there's multiple programs they want to go on, they're going to rank those programs, but also talk about the terms that they want to go. And while Ocean is only offered in the fall, that one I would say actually tends to have a little bit heavier on the junior front with a handful of seniors just because of the timing of college application season. That one tends to have actually more juniors on it. But maybe actually, Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit too to talk about when you're also thinking about going on an off-campus program, how they layer in kind of looking at it, yes, on seniority, but maybe also talking about terms. Like if you have a certain commitment in one of the terms that it's offered, why you might get priority in one term over the other. And so maybe Katie, you could talk about that.
Yeah, so you can definitely choose which term you want to do based on athletics, but also for academic reasons. So I am an Eastern skier, and winter is my main like season, so I needed to be on campus for that. So because of I was going into junior year, they let me have a spot on the spring trip because like even though I wasn't a senior, I had the skiing that I needed to be on campus for. And also, like for academic reasons, I know some classes, in order to get the AP credit, you need at least 2 consecutive terms. So last year for like AP Gov, I needed 2 terms for it so that I could move on to AP Euro. And also I believe AP Biology and AP Calculus are the same way. So that can also play a factor into it. And yeah, so seniority, athletics, and sometimes academics.
Thanks, Katie. Real quick too, I just saw another question. 75% of students going on one. Why do the 25% that aren't going on one, why they might not? And Jackie, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that as somebody who wasn't originally going to go on one, kind of what that thought process was for you as to why you weren't going to originally participate.
Yeah, so I came in as a new junior, and so since I would have had to apply the year before, I wasn't supposed to go off campus at all my junior year. And then based on my schedule, I'm a soccer player and a basketball player. And then in the spring, I was worried about going off, like missing things like prom, which sounds kind of silly, but as a high schooler, I thought that was really important. And also in the fall term, college applications. So since I couldn't go off my junior year and my senior year was so crowded with activities, I had just planned on not doing anything. And then in the case of my brother, because he's very similar, he doesn't think he's going off. I keep pushing him to go off campus because I think he'd love it. But he's also a three-sport athlete, so he doesn't have a season where he wants to go off and give up one of those sports. So I'd say for different people, it's different reasons. Mine was more academically based. And then for some people, it's athletics where they want to be on campus for their athletics.
Definitely. And so with that being said, I've in my time here, unless you come in as a postgraduate and you're only here for a year, which again, you're probably doubling down in a certain area because that's why you chose a postgraduate program. But for our students that are here for multiple years, I've never met a student who has wanted to study off campus and hasn't gone on a singular one, period. Sometimes if you're only here 2 years like Jackie and you apply, you might not get on your first choice. But again, that's why we really want kids to open up, have multiple options, multiple choices, things like that. Noah and Conrad, if you guys were doing a different program, what would that be as we're thinking about different choices and options?
Yeah, if I had to pick a different off-campus program to go on, I would definitely say European art classroom. Throughout my entire life, I have always loved the arts. I've always tried to take as many as I can, without sacrificing too much of my free time. But I always try. That's actually not true. I usually find myself going into the studio during my free blocks. But yeah, I've always just my entire life, even before coming to Proctor, I've always been super involved in the arts. My dad actually, when he went to Proctor, it was a different program back then. It was a similar to Spain. It was kind of like a French language and culture immersion off-campus program. It was less of the arts, but he still stayed in France. And that's something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to follow in his footsteps, but yeah.
Funny you say that because if I had to choose one, I would definitely say ocean. It's really cool. As just looking at that program from the outside as someone who hasn't experienced that, when groups of kids come back from ocean, they are bonded in a way that I think is just really unique and cool. I mean, if you're going through something like that, you haven't seen land in days. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but and your circadian rhythm is being destroyed by these insane watches. I just think that would force me to really grow and mature in some cool ways. So that's yeah, I would definitely choose ocean.
Thanks, Conrad. And a quick answer, no, students are not limited to one program during their time at Proctor. Again, we had some shifts in our panelists. I had a couple kids that had done multiple programs so they could speak to that experience. And again, extra help sessions, campus cold, different things jumped in today. But we have some seniors this winter that I think a couple of them are actually going on their third program. They did sophomore year, they did our Costa Rica program. Junior year, I know one of them did Spain and one of them did Ocean Classroom. And then I think now they're going on our European Art Classroom this winter. So we have students, everyone's on their own journey. They all are going to have different interests, different priorities, different things there. But I think that's a good question. This question, which might actually end up, it just came through to me and it might be a really great one to end on too. I think it's a fun one is if people talk about just their favorite memory from their program. It might be hard to sum up because there's so many different things that happened, but if anybody has kind of a core memory, the mountain classroom ones always end up being super goofy, I feel like. But if there's anyone who's ready to start on that front.
Yeah, I can start. So for our cruise track, we started off in Woods Hole, and then we went up to Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, up in Canada, and then we went down to Bermuda, and then ended in Newport, Rhode Island. But my favorite memory was when we went to Lunenburg. Our cruise track changed a bunch of times. Originally, when I first got accepted onto Ocean, we were supposed to go to South Carolina after Bermuda. And then over the summer, it changed to Virginia. And then while we were on the boat, it changed again into not stopping not stopping anywhere at all and just going straight back up to Rhode Island. But definitely my favorite memory was going to Lunenburg because we ended up, a storm ended up coming in and we stayed there 3 extra days, longer than we had initially planned. So we kind of just had to come up with different things that we wanted to do while we were there. But we definitely filled our time. We took tours of the town. We went to different museums, learning about Lunenburg and Nova Scotia's history. And we actually got to go on a different. It was a model of a old another old sailboat. Wasn't active, but we still got to go on it and see how everything was running, see how different it was from our boat. But yeah, it was definitely. It felt good to get on solid ground again. Definitely a weird adjustment, but yeah, it was definitely my favorite memory.
I'll just jump in since Noah and I have the mic already. So on Euro, especially when we would travel out to our different destinations, I was in the habit of getting up pretty early and going on walks, which turned out to be super cool. I was mostly motivated by just wanting to soak up as much of these cities as I possibly could before I had to leave. So this story happened when I was in Strasbourg, which, if you don't know, is positioned right on the Rhine, across the river from Germany. So I had the idea. I was like, oh, for my walk this morning, I should go walk to Germany. How fun would that be? My phone died, lost my Google Maps, got a little lost. I ended up in a park that I thought had a bridge going across, but was actually a horse ranch. And I walked through an open gate, realized I was in a horse ranch, and then tried to walk out, and the gate had closed, and I was trapped. I was milling around for a little bit, trying to figure out what to do, and then I hear this two-stroke engine, and out of nowhere, this old man on a tractor comes driving out to greet me, and he's like yelling at me in French, and I'm like, oh God, what am I supposed to do right now? I was terrified. So I explained to him what was going on. My French is not awesome, and as terrifying as that was, that did not make it any better. But I explained to him, I was like, look, I'm a student, I'm studying art, I'm lost, I'm sorry, man, can you just let me out? He asked me where I was from. I said I was American, and throughout this whole exchange, he'd been, kind of grumbling at me in French. And then just then he switches straight to perfect English. He goes, oh, you're an American, and proceeded to tell me how he remembered from when he was a kid how the Americans had liberated his village from the Germans, which blew my mind that there are people who remember that still, and who that's impactful for. And he was completely turned it on a dime. He was super sweet. He was asking me all these questions about where I was from in America and how much he loved Americans, which was just so different from what you think about culturally now with our country. And he let me out and showed me the bridge, and I walked to Germany, and I was back for breakfast.
Just a little extra international travel for you, Conrad. Kiara, if we pass the mic to you, what do you think is kind of one of those favorite or kind of core memories that you have from your Costa Rica program?
Yeah, so one of my core memories would have to be a hike to San Gerardo, a 3-day trip we did. And I think maybe at close to the end of the term, the spring term. So it was definitely a really fun trip. It was definitely a surprise to me. I never knew I was gonna do this until I got told maybe like yesterday night or whatever. So it was really a surprise. But essentially, you go to San Gerardo, which is like their wilderness. Like Costa Rica is more like wilderness based. So that's their like they love the wilderness so much. Like that's basically where like do the hikes and all that stuff. And we were introduced to this guy named Mark Wainwright, which is like the environmental scientist there. And we're basically Katia, which is like the director in Costa Rica in that program there, essentially drives us there, and we're there, and it's like I'm thinking, why am I hiking? Like I personally, me, I absolutely hate hiking. So it was really just a hard time for me. But going to San Gerardo was really, really nice. I mean, it was a 3-mile hike downhill. It was nonstop downhill. And then when you're into this cabin, immersed with like this beautiful view of the mountains. And so essentially you're there for a couple of days. You do night hikes. And I remember on one night hike, we saw like millions of frogs and lots of snakes. And it was just amazing. And Mark Brainwater is like an amazing person. He's like immersed with all these like scientists, and like he knows like so much. He can tell you like you can pick up this random leaf and it'll tell you the history behind a leaf. Like I don't know how he does it, but he's just amazing. And it was amazing and like an amazing experience. So
Thanks, Kiara. You lost me at hundreds of snakes, but we'll scrub that from the video when we post it. And so Jackie and Katie, what about you? What are some of those kind of core memories, favorite memories? I feel like Katie, we gotta save you for last because you're bubbling up a little too much.
So on Spain, we went during Semana Santa, which is Holy Week. It's around Easter in Spain. And what happens during that week is there's processions that happen throughout the city of Segovia. So all these individuals in like different costumes walk around barefoot around the city holding crosses. Just to kind of demonstrate their devotion to God, and they parade all the way to the cathedral in the middle of the city. So sometimes at night we'd be sitting in the classroom and we'd hear this music from outside, and we go out on the little balconies that face La Plaza Mayor, and we get to see all these processions. So that was absolutely my favorite memory, was just that entire week seeing all the different processions and just getting to be a part of that cultural experience.
Thanks, Jackie and Kate. I was gonna already combine your names. You're JD now. And Katie, what do you have? What's kind of that core memory or a favorite memory that you have from Mountain?
Yeah, so Mountain's notorious for its core memories, but I think my favorite was so we were 5 days into our 10-day backpacking trip, and usually in the backcountry there's when you have like a bigger group, there's two cook groups. And the other cook group woke up one morning and was like, "So we don't have enough food to last us for the rest of this 5-day trip." And we had just gotten to the top of the canyon, so we were kind of like, "Okay, so four of us and an instructor need to hike back out and get food." So we woke up at around 4 and dropped our packs at a trail split so the rest of the group could grab them, and we hiked 15 miles out to go get some food for the rest of the group. And on our way out, we sat in a parking lot and ate a pint of Ben and Jerry's and ate these really, really good New Mexican burritos. They were Don Juan's burritos. We went so many times that we became friends with the owner, which was really cool. And so just like eating burritos and Ben and Jerry's in the parking lot after hiking 15 miles and waking up at 4 in the morning with like some of my closest friends was probably one of my favorite memories of Mountain.
Thanks, Katie. Well, I apologize for anyone who we weren't able to get to all of your questions. I would highly encourage you to feel free to reach out. If you reach out to anybody in our admissions team, we are happy to connect you with any of the students that are here this evening or other students that have gone on the program that might overlap with your child's interests in a lot of different ways. But I would like to give a huge shout out and thank you to our student panelists this evening. We're just, it's crazy to think that we're 2.5 weeks out from the end of the term, and so finals and projects and tests are going on. And so for our students to give up the first half of their study hall this evening to chat with families, I'm just very, very thankful for all of them. And so I just wanted to give them a quick thank you. And I want to thank everyone who attended this evening. Once again, just as our students are busy, we understand life is busy. Your students back home finishing up what the different various grades that they're in, potentially their final year at their current school and different activities, open houses, school visits, tours. This has definitely been a busy fall for all of you. So we are just thankful that you have all taken the time out of your evening to join us, and we look forward to connecting more with you throughout this process. So at any point, feel free to reach out to your admissions counselors, or if you don't have one yet, to just reach out to a Proctor admissions in the general scope, and we are happy to connect with you more. But I just wanted to thank you all and for everyone to have a great rest of your evening.